The fifth most yards per game last season, so it's not just Russ. Yesterday, they made the blockbuster, sending Wilson to the Broncos for a haul of players and a lot of picks in the deal. Drew Lock heads to Seattle. Wilson started all but 3 games since being drafted in 2012. Today, they made it official, also releasing another legend, that is linebacker Bobby Wagner, removing a $20 million cap hit from Seattle's roster. Wagner was in the same draft as Wilson, and with these moves, the Seahawks will have $58 million in cap space this offseason. Let's bring in our NFL insider, Adam Schefter, back here on SportsCenter. What do these moves mean for the Seahawks' plans going forward in the offseason, Shefty?
Well, Kevin, there are some people who are saying that Seattle's now rebuilding. I think of it more along the lines of remaking and reshaping this roster at this point in time, clearing out cap space. They now have a whole lot of cap space to do what they want, and they have an abundance of picks. They have double ones. Where they have the 2 1s they got from Denver. They have the 2 2s they got from Denver. It would be very easy to go and turn around and flip those picks for a quarterback like Deshaun Watson, depending on what happens with his legal issues this offseason. And the grand jury obviously will deliberate on Friday, and we could hear and learn more about Deshaun Watson then. But you don't trade a quarterback like Russell Wilson without having some sort of idea about what you could do. There'll be teams that will be interested in Deshaun Watson, depending on what happens legally. Now, we don't know what's going to happen there, but I can tell you that the NFL will be waiting to discipline him. I think there are people around the league who think he will be suspended next season, but that doesn't mean that there aren't teams that do want him. There are teams out there. Carolina will want him. I would expect Seattle would check in on him. There'll be others as well. And so there will be interest in Deshaun Watson, just as there's been interest in all these other quarterbacks this past week as the quarterback carousel has begun to spin rather quickly.
Especially in a draft that is not dominated by the quarterbacks like we've seen in the past. And for much more on the big story you mentioned, Shefty, quarterbacks, Carson Wentz going to D.C. Here's Tony and Mike in tonight's PTI bonus segment.
All right, Wilbon, can your boy Carson Wentz become the franchise quarterback that Washington has long sought after?
You mean like, can he become the quarterback, the franchise quarterback for the Indianapolis Colts? You know, can he become the franchise quarterback of the Philadelphia Eagles? You know, I guess, Tony, look, there are some late bloomers. There are people who play maybe double-digit years, and late in the going, they catch fire. They get the right coach. They get the right team, Trent Dilfer. They can win at the highest level. It doesn't mean that they're a franchise quarterback. They're going to run that franchise and lead it for even 6 years, much less 8 to 10. Washington hasn't had that since Joe Theismann, all right? And this guy, he can't carry Joe Theismann's throat lozenges, okay? So I don't want to hear the projections about him being a great quarterback. He's a top 100 player. I've been hearing this junk for years, and all he does is disappoint. So I ain't betting that way.
So let me go to the notion of franchise quarterback. You're 100% right. They've won Super Bowls with Doug Williams and Mark Rippon, but other than Joe Theismann, they've not had a franchise quarterback, and that's 40 years ago.
Yeah.
So whatever success they have had over the years is with people that are plugged in and do very well but are not franchise quarterbacks. If you looked at Carson Wentz's numbers, and I'm going to the glasses to give you some of the numbers, 27 touchdowns, 7 picks this year, a 95 rating. 140 touchdowns, 57 picks over his career. 16-9 in his career against NFC East teams with 42 touchdowns and 14 picks. You'd look at those numbers and you say, yeah, bring this guy on. He could be a franchise quarterback. But you cannot look at Carson Wentz without seeing that lefty, underhanded pass in the end zone against Tennessee that becomes a pick six. His failures are so absolute that it causes you to push back a little bit.
And
he's going to have to prove it.
His latest failure came under a coach that sought him out, that wanted him.
That's right.
That we were all promised was going to elevate him. And now he's gone again. So might he do that? Yes. He's got the physical capabilities of being that guy. Am I going to Vegas on that? No, you can go without me. That's it. We're done. Back to you.
I cancel Wilbon's seat to Vegas. Let me book somebody else in there.
Thanks, guys. So at this moment, exactly 2 weeks ago, Michigan head coach Juwan was sitting in his home office getting ready to watch his team play on TV. It was game 1 of Howard's 5-game suspension for his role in that post-Wisconsin game fight. The Wolverines, they went 3-2 in their coach's absence, and tomorrow Howard can return to the sidelines for Michigan's game against Indiana. As for what happened that afternoon against Wisconsin, now Howard says he's not here to make excuses. Here's Coley Harvey with tonight's SportsCenter report.
Just before getting on a plane with his team and making the short flight to Indianapolis Wednesday afternoon, Michigan head coach Juwan Howard addressed his return from a 5-game suspension.
I can come with 1,000 excuses, but I'm not. I take full ownership for my actions. I was truly upset with myself. During that 2 weeks, I did some soul searching on how I can improve.
Howard's team improved its tournament chances on the court in his absence. The Wolverines went 3-2 while guided by a group of assistants that included Howard's fill-in, long-respected former St. Joe's head coach Phil Martelli. As impactful as Martelli's presence was on the floor, Howard was most touched by how Martelli managed the program off it.
Not only being the experience he has, but the man, the person. And I'm getting chills right now. I get a little choked up just talking about him because I know that he loves me, and I love him.
Martelli told me at the start of the suspension that those emotions are exactly what he hoped Howard would feel. Howard also felt remorse. He said he sought therapy during his time away, adding, "It wasn't the first time he's gone for treatment, nor would it be the last. Now, there's just one more thing he hopes to do."
I want to apologize to the assistant coach at Wisconsin, Joe, because he deserves an apology. And hopefully someday, in person, that I get an opportunity to walk up to that man and apologize to him, look him in the eye, look him in the face, and let him know that I am sorry.
Although Michigan and Wisconsin can't meet on the floor until Sunday's final at the Big Ten tournament, Howard might have a chance to make that apology this week. After all, both teams are in the same city for the first time since the incident. In Indianapolis, I'm Coley Harvey, ESPN.
We got more college hoops ahead on SportsCenter with more bad behavior on the court. Could a swing of the arm cost Buddy Boeheim a suspension? Ahead of tomorrow's ACC tournament showdown with Duke. Then today's Carson Wentz trade is shaking things up for Todd McShay, the latest mock draft, and how the Commanders are shifting expectations for the first quarterback off the board.